I have a client right now who's dealing with a very difficult situation, and it was very difficult for me to even listen to this topic. But it was something that needed to be addressed, and he was being beaten up by his wife quite severely. I mean, it's even difficult to talk about this. And when I discovered how many men are being abused, I was overwhelmed and alarmed. And I'm not saying women are evil, don't get me wrong, and men are not evil either. But I was really really surprised at this, and it bothered me. It really bothered me. Of course, we could say, did he deserve it? Which is such a horrible thing to say, but no, he didn't deserve it. Either way, violence of any sort in a spousal relationship is unacceptable. But then I said to him, well, what makes you stay here? I mean, surely you can go somewhere else. Which revealed to me another pattern that I find in people who complain about their situations. They're in these impossible situations, an irritating boss, irritating work landscape, a terrible relationship, but they won't. It's what I came to realize after speaking to so many people about the same thing, is that they lack confidence, they lack belief in themselves, that they can find a better situation. So rather complain about the situation that you're in than do something else. Because when you take responsibility and you stop complaining, you now have to accept the responsibility as well, which means that you could fail. And so what we do, and many people do, is they rather stay in a horrible situation and blame the other person or blame the situation, which most of the time is a valid reason to be unhappy. However, we feel trapped, we feel stuck. And this to me is what is known in psychology as learned helplessness. We feel so helpless. And it's this wonderful example of when they have a baby elephant in a circus and they tie a rope around its leg. When the baby elephant is young, the baby elephant fights and resists and tries to get away. But after some time, the baby elephant says, well, this is my fate. Obviously, he's not saying that, or she's not saying that physically, but they start believing that these are the limits, that I can't go past this point. And so when the baby elephant grows older and they take the rope off, the elephant never goes anywhere. It knows. It's ingrained in them. These are the limits and I can't go past that. And so this is precisely what happens to people. They develop this learned helplessness. They feel this is it. And you can come with all your rational mind and saying, you're a wonderful person. You can do so much better. You deserve better. Yet these words fall on deaf ears, even though they say, yeah, you're right. I deserve better. I should do something about it. They feel helpless. They feel disempowered. Yet they don't know that. And they beat themselves up for, well, why can't I do this? And I should do this. I shouldn't tolerate this. And they complain and they blame. Yet they're still here. And days pass, months pass, years pass. And relationships get worse. And the people around them, especially children, suffer the consequences and notice these things. And it starts bothering them as well. But they don't have the courage to leave. So then the process to help my clients would be not one of dispensing advice. I think giving advice, especially in my field, is the most arrogant thing you can do. And I teach my coaches, your job is not to dispense advice. Because how do you know their situation and all their variables, including their personality, their past, and their baggage? So you're dispensing advice, and that's the trap of going to read a book. And it says on here, these are the 3 steps, leave the person, start a new life, etc. And then you read it, and the person says, okay, this is what I need to do, but they don't do it. So that does not work. And that's why I don't dispense advice. What I do is I encourage them to create a new identity, to create a new personality, which means that they have to embark on a journey of self-discovery. They have to know themselves and why they feel so disempowered. And so we have to realize that helplessness is that we don't feel empowered enough. So then how do we get someone to feel empowered enough? By encouraging them to develop self-respect, feeling worthy of a good partner, feeling worthy of a good relationship, feeling worthy of a good job, feeling worthy of success. But this requires an identity shift. And so what we've got to do then is to show our clients how to respect themselves. And this requires discipline and getting them to do things on a daily basis that now develops a reputation with the inner child. All of us have this thing called the inner child. Whether you can say it's real or not real, it works because there is a child inside all of us that needs nourishing, that needs nurturing. We need to work alongside with our inner child. And the brutal conversations that we have with ourselves, such as, I'm so stupid, I should just move on. Why can't you do this? You're so weak. All these kind of conversations are being listened to the inner child. And the inner child listens to this and feels very disempowered. So the first step is to nurture a relationship with the inner child and then to start working on self-respect. And that self-respect does not mean that you go and tell everybody, because people say, yes, I respect myself. I have clear boundaries. Nobody says anything to me. Well, that's a lie in most times because they're usually complaining how people are pushing into their boundaries. So that's a bit of a lie, but not in a bad way. They're protecting their ego identity. So what we have to do then is to make them do things on a daily basis that encourage them to respect themselves. But you can't respect yourself unless you love yourself. And so that self-love is so lacking in so many people. And developing that relationship with your inner child is then loving yourself and loving that inner child. So for most people, especially in consumerism and the whole ideology is that they say, you want to love yourself? Go for a massage, go for a sauna, go listen to music. That's not loving yourself, that's distracting yourself. Loving yourself is keeping yourself accountable because you're important and you're worthy and that you're going to make your bed. That's self-love in action. You respecting yourself, that's keeping your word to yourself. You're developing an inner relationship, which now means that you can respect others, you can love others, and others respect you, and others love you. And now there's a sense of empowerment that starts growing in the individual. And either the circumstances change or they feel strong enough. We've rewired the neurons, the whole identity has shifted. And for them to then one day wake up in the morning and say, I'm leaving. Well, what made you change? I don't know, I just felt like it. What's actually happened when I remind them is that they feel worthy. They feel that they don't deserve this, that they deserve better. And then they don't become narcissistic and barbarians and break relationships and swear at people and destroy other people. Because they've learned to now love themselves and nurture the inner child, they behave the same way towards people that may have done injustice to them. So then they say, I love you, I give you space to be as you are, but it's not healthy for me and it's not healthy for you, for us to be together. So I'm moving away for us to grow. And so this changes the entire dialogue and empowers them, and they end up making the right choices in the future because that identity has shifted. That person who feels worthy of love, of respect, of success, then makes healthy choices. But you can't just flog them with endless amounts of happy quotes and positive affirmations and memes on the internet. It doesn't work. It works for a moment, and that what ends up happening, you read it and you're like, oh yeah, I've changed. No, you haven't. You're kidding yourself. You haven't changed. Change is sitting down doing the most uncomfortable thing. Because when you do things that shift your identity, it should feel very uncomfortable. It should feel odd, because that's the discomfort phase. We become so comfortable with pain, with the suffering that we have. We become comfortable being victims, complaining, blaming, but taking charge and saying, I feel good today. I can do whatever I want to do today. Nobody's stopping me. That should feel very odd if you've been a victim all your life. And that requires you to change the inner dialogue. But it doesn't happen by yourself. It requires being kept accountable by someone else, not just you. Because your self-sabotaging mind will go back to the old patterns. So many times I'm calling clients up and saying, did you do the work? And they come up with all sorts of excuses. And I got to remind them as to the importance of doing this for themselves. And then they're convinced again, they get back onto it, and they start growing. But this is a continuous process. that starts developing momentum very quickly. Once the inner child relationship starts taking momentum, then you're doing things that confirm this new identity, and then it becomes, a snowball effect, like the ball rolling down the hill, where you're doing all these things that are so good for you instead of brutalizing yourself and being harsh on yourself.